y'all.
Good morning.
I'm Eddie Lowe. I'm an attorney in Aniana. I represent Apex Disposal LLC. I really appreciate that they let me be involved in this project. I'll tell you, when I first sat down with the guys to talk about the project, I told them that our family, sort of as a household, we're kind of hippie, environmental type folks, and I have not gotten involved with any of these type of projects. Just sort of declined from doing that. But I sat down and talked to them, and they told me about the location, and they told me about all the work they were doing with the engineers. And Andrew said, "Hey, I live next door to this site. I'm downstream. I'm a well water. I've got a family. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't feel strongly about what we're doing." And I thought, I can advocate this. So excited to be here, excited to help let everybody know everything we can about the project. And with that, I guess I'll turn it over to Stephen Blankenship with McGee Engineering to tell you what you might actually want to know about the project.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. So this morning, I just want to give you an overview of the project so you can get a good understanding of what you're looking at and what we're talking about. I have a few slides so you can understand. So on behalf of Apex Disposal LLC and in conjunction with the procedures outlined in Blount County Solid Waste Management Plan for proposed landfills, Apex Disposal LLC is hosting this public awareness session for the proposed Apex Disposal C&D landfill. Now, just a couple of slides so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. And if you can see here, the proposed Apex Disposal C&D landfill is proposed to be located in southwest Blount County, just off Sibleyville Road. I'll have a couple of slides in a minute. You'll see a little bit closer where Sibleyville Road is. And it's immediately north of the Jefferson County line. Looking on this next slide, as it can be seen on this second vicinity map, you can get an idea the location is south of Hayden community. Basically, all of the light blue shaded area in here is the Hayden community, and then it is just north, immediately north of Warrior. And I think if you Google it, you'll get a Warrior community address. So that'll kind of give you an idea of where this project is located. As we zoom in a little bit more, a little bit further, you can see that the landfill boundary, which is the black boundary shaded with the hatch there. As it relates to Sibleyville Road, you may not can see it very good on the slide, but Sibleyville Road, right through there is where that is located. The facility entrance to the east, and you see that very clearly, is off of Sibleyville Road, and just before you enter Jefferson County. You can't see it on this, but the Jefferson County line is right below the project area there. Now, the landfill disposal area is located in a rural portion of Blount County where only connecting development is Sibleyville Road itself, and located to the east. And the nearest residential development, as Mr. Lowe already mentioned, is located a little bit further to the east, just across or east of Sibleyville Road. And the remaining area surrounding the landfill disposal site is undeveloped, with all the remaining area around here being forested timber. Little facility detail map we can look at gives you a little bit better view. So as we look at the details of the landfill site, we'll see that the entire proposed landfill permit area is only 57 acres. That is your black boundary that you see on the screen there. With the actual disposal area being this mustard-colored hatch is only 24 acres. So the nearest identified stream, so from an environmental standpoint, we want to kind of consider what are your streams, what are your constraints. The nearest identified named stream is Sibleyville Creek, located to the north of the project. And as you'll notice on this facility detail map, there is a minimum 100-foot vegetated buffer. That buffer is right through here. That 100-foot vegetated buffer from the proposed permit area that will remain in place during the life of the landfill. Additionally, you'll notice that the 24-acre disposal area here also has an even greater buffer from Sibleyville Creek, with the nearest point being over 150 foot, and even greater in most areas, as you can see over here to the west. These, there are two separate sediment basins proposed for the site. But within the proposed area that is not disposable, so the permanent area black, the hatch disposal area, so within this area that is not the disposal area, that area will be utilized such as best management practices, access road around the disposal area, as well as diversion, sediment control basins, cover material stockpile, of course, and scale house and office facilities. And so, as I mentioned, there's 2 sediment basins in there, and one of the sediment basins proposed on the site. All these sediment basins will filter stormwater runoff before leaving the permitted area. All this runoff will be routed through those sediment basins. The sediment basins will also act as the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, ADEM is the acronym for that, ADEM permitted outfalls, which water quality can be monitored. One of these basins is proposed to be located in the northwest corner here, and then the second sediment basin is to be located in the southeast corner down here. And all the water will be filtered through those 2 sediment basins, which we refer to in the EPDES permit as outfalls. So speaking of ADEM, the proposed project is required to be permitted through the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, who will review all of the environmental studies as well as the landfill and disposal area design, and make sure that they conform to the protection of the surrounding environment, including water quality of any water leaving the site. Speaking of water leaving the site, in regards to water quality, you can see on this next slide, those blue dots are wells that have been drilled for monitoring the water. So to ensure that the water quality is met, and one of the criteria for that water quality is that in regards to water quality, the disposal area is required to be located at least 5 foot above the groundwater table. And to ensure that that criteria is met, McGee Engineering has established 5 groundwater wells which have been monitored since the beginning of the year. Now, ADEM requires that groundwater elevation be established by monitoring the water levels on site through the months of February, March, and April. However, to ensure the accuracy of the groundwater establishment through these groundwater monitoring wells, all those blue dots, we had established groundwater monitoring wells in December of last year, and we've been monitoring those wells, those groundwater elevations, since the beginning of 2026, and we'll continue to monitor the groundwater elevation through the 1st of May. Now, in addition to the disposal area being located a minimum of 5 foot above the groundwater table, there will also be a 2-foot compacted clay liner remaining in place between the bottom of the disposal area and the water elevation. Now, the facility is located in Upland. It's a little bit difficult to see that on this slide the way it is, but all these kind of shaded brown areas with the contours show up a little bit better on a separate slide, but they kind of give you an idea that this site, located in Upland area, is not located in a FEMA designated flood zone. So we're good from that standpoint. Additionally, you can see not only that their previously mentioned buffer in north or even around the disposal area to Sibleyville Creek, and also the buffer on the east to Oakland Creek, but the elevation of the disposal area is substantially higher than the elevation of these nearest streams. Looking at the aerial photo of the site, which you can see here, in reference to streams, as we look here on this aerial photo of the site, it may also help us give us an understanding of the relationship of the project into those nearest streams. So it gives you a better idea. I'll mention from a stream standpoint that a wetland delineation has been performed on site, and a jurisdictional determination was submitted to the Department of Army Corps of Engineers, who has regulatory authority over impacts to streams. In that wetland delineation report, there were no jurisdictional waters identified on the site within the proposed project boundary. And the Department of Army Corps of Engineers has issued approved jurisdictional determination verifying the findings of that wetland delineation, confirming that as well. Let's talk a little bit about the The disposal area details maybe the type of waste that will be received. So the Apex disposal area is only a C&D landfill with the ability to also receive tires. Besides tires, the C&D, which is the C&D is construction and demolition, means that the landfill will only be able to receive construction and demolition material, i.e. Solid waste resulting from construction, remodeling, repair, demolition operations such as masonry, sheetrock, roofing waste, non-asbestos insulation, I would say scrap metal, wood. This includes things like concrete, bricks, asphalt paving, lumber, drywall. It also includes materials such as tree stumps, brush, and other vegetative matter. So the landfill is not able to receive items such as municipal garbage or hazardous waste, or even appliances containing chlorofluorocarbons and such. Basically, no industrial process waste will be allowed in this type of landfill. Basically, they can receive only waste that is non-hazardous, non-infectious, as defined by Hayden, fitting the category of C&D or construction and demolition waste and tires. Now, there is an extensive list of items that are not allowed under the category, so I'll not attempt to go in and explain all those, but that gives you an idea of what is allowed. And you know, I don't mean to insult your intelligence. I'm sure you're familiar with what type of material is allowed in C&D. Let's talk about quantity of waste for a second. The maximum daily volume of waste to be received at the facility is estimated to be approximately 300 tons per day, or approximately 20 trucks per day, which is consistent with the Blount County Solid Waste Plan's emphasis on appropriately scaled facilities that meet local and regional disposal needs without creating undue impacts on surrounding land uses or transportation infrastructure. And we'll talk a little bit about transportation infrastructure in just a minute. But the controlled daily volume also aligns with Hayden's requirement that solid waste facilities be designed and operated in a manner that protects public health and the environment. So the estimated operational life of the disposal facility is estimated to be approximately 20 years, and this long-term capacity contributes to the system reliability. It reduces dependence on out-of-county or distant disposal facilities as well. From a public service and fire protection standpoint, because that's always a question that comes up when you talk about landfills, is what is the fire protection measures? So the proposed C&D landfill has been evaluated with respect to the cost and availability of public services that would need to assist or help in line with any particular problems that may arise. So it was evaluated from public services standpoints, facilities, improvements necessary to support the operation of the facility, and also to protect health, safety, and the environment. So the proposed facility is designed to operate utilizing existing public services and infrastructure within Blount County, and will not require any additional construction or new public facilities of expansion of existing services. So the size of the landfill fits to be serviced, if needed, by any of the existing public facilities without any undue stress. Fire protection and emergency response services have been carefully considered as part of this, as all landfills should be. And they were considered from a facility design, location, operations plan. All that went into the planning and coordination of the design of the location where this landfill is proposed for. So the landfill will incorporate on-site fire prevention and response measures intended to serve as a first line of defense in the event of a fire. Initial suppression will be conducted by facility personnel using stockpile material that they'll have readily available on site and accessible by the necessary equipment used to maintain and conduct landfill operations. And that stockpile material maintained on site will help isolate and suppress fire if it were to occur. The procedures are intended to kind of allow for an initial rapid response for small or localized incidents, and to minimize that potential for damage to be escalated. Daily operation practices were also considered. How can we incorporate daily operational practices that will minimize or reduce or eliminate the potential for a fire hazard? So those daily operation practices that minimize fire risk include confined waste placement, making sure you confine it in a particular area as you dispose of it, routine inspections, of the active disposal area. And then as a secondary level of response, which is important as well, fire protection services are available through West Blount Fire Department. The West Blount Fire Department service area includes the proposed landfill location. And I would say furthermore, the department's configuration and capabilities, they ensure that adequate water supply and operational resources are available on the initial and even the sustained responses if necessary to meet the demands of the proposed landfill. A letter from the fire department confirmed a couple of things that are reported. One, the initial response time to the landfill site is projected to be less than 10 minutes. So you have close availability from secondary fire protection. And then second, the first units will arrive with 6,000 gallons of water on board, which is also important. And then third, additional responding units are equipped to supply additional 10,000 gallons via drop tank traffic operation. So the combination of the on-site suppression measures and the existing local fire services really ensures that fire risk can be effectively managed without the need for new or expanded public fire protection facilities. Apex understands that fire prevention and response measures are a critical component of operating and protecting public health and safety. And the landfill will implement those operational practices that minimize fire risk, including confined waste placement, and then weekly cover, which is also important in routine inspection of the active disposal area. So these layered measures significantly reduce the likelihood of uncontrolled fire events and associated off-site impacts. Let's take a look at transportation for a second here, speaking, because a lot of questions come up in regards to traffic or increased traffic and how that will affect the surrounding community. So looking at this transportation route map, the proposed C&D landfill is, and I would say is appropriately located with respect to major transportation infrastructure within Blount County. The site is situated in an area that is characterized by limited surrounding development, with land use generally compatible with solid waste management plan activities. There is no known planned residential, commercial, or institutional development in the immediate vicinity that would be adversely affected by the proposed landfill. And the proposed facility is also favorably located in relation to existing transportation infrastructure. The site is approximately 2 miles from US Highway 31, both heading south on Hayden Road. Maybe you can't really see it, but there's a red line that indicates Hayden route. So from here to the facility entrance, you can get to Highway 31 to the red route that you see on the screen. But you can also get about 2 miles heading the blue route, which is the Trafford Road route. That also gets you to Highway 31. And I would say the primary designated traffic flow will be south on Sibleyville Road, and then crosses right into Jefferson County right there onto that Trafford Road route. So the landfill, even though it's expected to receive a maximum of approximately 20 trucks per day, represents a low level of traffic that will not materially impact local, state, or local roadways. So access to the site will utilize those existing roads. There will be no need for additional development or roadways, and no new major roadway construction would be required for the facility. The proximity to the state highways and the interstate, also, you see I-65 over here, the proximity to those state highways and interstate allows that waste hauling vehicles to efficiently reach the facility with basically minimizing their travel through residential areas. There's residential areas are to the north. You probably saw those on one of the first slides. Most of the Hayden community to the north. So by this traffic route, we're eliminating sending a lot of the traffic through a residential area. Transportation infrastructure serving the site consists of existing county and state maintained roadways that are fully capable of accommodating the limited truck traffic generated by the facility. So the average customer is predicted to travel less than 3 miles on county maintained roads due to the site proximity to Highway 31. And this low traffic volume on county roads is not anticipated to adversely affect roadway capacity or traffic safety for that matter, or traffic control devices. So no roadway improvement, upgrades, traffic control devices, none of that's going to be required to support the proposed facility. Overall, the proposed facility's location, it reflects careful consideration of the surrounding land use and transportation infrastructure. Its separation from developed areas, I think, is important, but it's combined with reasonable proximity to major highways, which support safe, efficient operations, and it reduces the potential for impacts on the traveling public or even nearby properties. Let's talk a little bit about environmental compliance, because that's always important for discussing a landfill. Stormwater management, erosion control, environmental protection measures, they will be implemented in accordance with ADEMS, that's the Alabama Department of Environmental Management. Those ADEM permit requirements and approved BMP plans, best management practice plans, and even a pollution abatement plan, a PAP plan with ADEM, and those are pursuant to Alabama's administrative code. So these systems will function independently of public drainage infrastructure, and they're designed really to protect surface water and groundwater resources without relying upon any additional public utilities or public facilities. ADEM permitted environmental protection measures, they are designed to incorporate safe and really safeguard public health by preventing release of both to land and to water resources. So the disposal area and the construction will include a minimum of that 24-inch compacted clay liner below the disposal area. That compacted clay liner, helps protect our groundwater resources. And they'll also receive weekly cover material. This will be maintained. The site will be maintained at a bottom elevation no less than 5 feet from the groundwater elevation, the groundwater table, if you will. APEX Disposal will implement these stormwater controls, these erosion sedimentation measures, and waste placement practices designed to minimize runoff from the site, designed to minimize infiltration into the ground. And it will extend the exposure, or it will extend the cover of any potential exposure of waste materials to minimize that exposure by this weekly cover. Acceptance of waste. A lot of people are, how are we going to kind of police what type of waste is going to be in there? We know what C&D type waste is, and how are we going to make sure that no hazardous waste are brought in? So acceptance of waste will be restricted to permitted C&D, construction demolition materials, as I previously mentioned some of those. And those incoming loads will be individually screened to prevent disposal of unauthorized or hazardous waste. So there are to be checks and balances in place to make sure that the material being received is the material acceptable for this type of landfill. Environmental monitoring and regulatory compliance will be conducted by a landfill operator as required by the ADEM permit. Those things are spelled out when the ADEM permit is issued, how that needs to go forward and how that needs to operate. Oversight will be provided through existing ADEM regulations, through the regulatory program that ADEM has in place right now to protect both the public health and environmental issues. Monitoring the facility, and even without having any additional government resources required for that. Public access, people are concerned, what if after hours, or what if somebody just decides to go and dump something without anybody knowing? Again, personnel on site screening material coming in, each load, public access. Site security measures will also further protect the public safety. The landfill will be secured with a controlled entry point, one controlled entry point, exit point, clear signage to prevent unauthorized access. With the majority of the property perimeter is characterized by steep wooded slopes that will prevent vehicle access from any other point besides the primary entrance to the landfill. The site will be limited to no more than 6 days per week with no access on Sundays. The operating hours will be limited. And the site will be supervised during operating periods, reducing that risk of trespass or illegal dumping or even accidental exposure to normal operating hazards. So that's kind of the overview of what this particular project looks like, where it's at. I would say from a standpoint of public concern, what are the next steps in this process? This public awareness session was to give you the information on what the project is, what it looks like, where it's located. So Blount County is currently receiving comments from the public on this project. Additionally, a public hearing that will be held by the Blount County Commission on Tuesday, May the 12th at 9 a.m. for the public participation. So that's kind of the project overview and understanding that this is just one step in the process. The permitting organizations, both post-government approval and the state approval, reviewing environmental studies, concurrences, and design plans.
So at this point, I guess we'll open it up for questions. If anybody's got questions or would like to speak, if you have signed up, then feel free. If you have not signed up, you can ask your question, and then please do sign up, just so we know who we're talking to. So has anybody got anything they'd like to know? Anybody got anything they'd like for us to know?
Is there any kind of written material anyplace that explains what that gentleman just talked about?
Yes, ma'am. The application that was filed with the county is available, I guess, at the commission office. Stop by and talk to Mark.
Yes, just stop and see Mr. Staten, he's got a copy, he gets a copy.
And, or if you want to hang around and leave an email address, I can send you a PDF
I'm
copy.
lying around.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm going to ask a question if I don't. Anyway, I'm a local builder around the area, and I think it's a great idea, you know, what's going on, because there's nothing really around here to do that for construction materials. And it's, of course, it's pretty close to everything I do anyway, so it's a benefit to me. But I'm very familiar with everything he talks about, because I'm QCI, which he knows. I do all that too, so I know, and they're very strict about everything, you know, with the BMPs and everything to make sure that you're in a water system or, you know, or anything like that. So it's needed. I don't, you know, so that's, you know, that's just my opinion. I know there's probably several builders and things like that that would really enjoy that, having something close by.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because I think that is part of the county's solid waste disposal policy, or I can't remember what it's called. Part of the policy is not only do we regulate these things, but we also need to have them available for people. And it needs to be a little bit of both. I don't know if you got thoughts on the matter.
Eddie, I'll say this, I operate the transfer station for the county, and we're basically a convenience center now. And it's hard for us to handle any C and D debris. Bucksworth Elementary, they tore it down a few years ago and built a new one, and we just couldn't handle it. I know these people is anti-landfill or whatever, you know, there's pros and cons, but, you know, we usually wind up picking up off the side of the road where it's illegally dumped. So, it's, the commission will have to make a decision.
That's good, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
I can tell you just about from first-hand experience where every bit of what he's talking about ends up. It ends up in somebody's holler somewhere, or somewhere it shouldn't be, and it's going to continue happening until there is somewhere besides Mount Olive and these other places for it to go. And right now, we cannot afford to be carrying the material, nor can the consumer, the person that's trying to pay us to get rid of it. We can't afford $49 a ton to go dump. And when you put that up against what people are already facing right now, they're gonna choose to go throw it in Bubba's holler. They're not gonna go pay that to do that, and, it's a real problem whether you know it or not. And we need somewhere to go. When you have somewhere for it to go and the problem persists, and you still have people doing it, at least you have a leg to stand on when you go after the ones that are doing it wrong. Because, if you don't have somewhere for it to go, it's gonna keep happening. And, I would rather spend my money in Blount County than send it all down the road to Jackson County like I've been doing. So, you pretty much, you get this many people coming in, they're gonna keep building, they're gonna keep doing stuff. You need to get with it or get left behind on it. So, I just know that we don't have a good way to get ready either.
I appreciate you bringing that up, and, you know, getting it to Jefferson County, not only you got the cost of dumping it, but the cost of the diesel to get it there is going up too.
Hey, my fuel bill has more than doubled, and nobody wants to pay for it, and it has done nothing but cause even more stress and more trouble. It's just, it compiles, it's a constant issue.
Well, if there's no further questions, I guess, for out loud, we'll still be here for a little while if anybody wants to come up and ask anybody any questions. But unless anybody's got anything further, I guess that'll conclude our public awareness session.